So much of the time, it feels like one worldview, one position is tolerated.
Well, we're not even 10 seconds in, and she's already hinting at a potential persecution complex. Boy, are we off to a great start.
You'll be told that you have internalized misogyny. You'll be told that you don't care about other women's well-being.
While I consider it presumptuous to engage in the sort of knee-jerk, armchair mind reading that I suspect may be the focus of Ms. Shapiro's complaints, it is not often hard to see why such hypotheses are appealing. Conservative ideals tend to make women bear unique burdens and restrict their role in society. That may not be the conscious intention, but it is an inevitable consequence, which even the most well-meaning conservative either can't or won't acknowledge.
You'll be told that you aren't a real woman.
Right, 'cause no conservative has ever told someone who identifies as female and fits that description in every way that really matters, that she's not a real woman.
How did you, of all people, get the powers? They're supposed to be passed down from mother to daughter, so how did someone like you get them? You're not even a real woman.
Yeah, I know. It's a TV show about superheroes, but sadly, this is actually one of the least unrealistic scenes in it. And look, this is my first exposure to Ms. Shapiro, so I'm just inferring from this alone that she's not exactly a trans ally. But even if she is, she's still issuing a rallying cry of sorts to a group of people who are not exactly known for being friendly to the transgender community. So I think the irony is still worth pointing out.
Conservative women are the backbone of American society. We prioritize marriage and children, support our husbands, and support ourselves. We help our husbands grow, not by obeying their every word, but by bolstering their strengths and tamping down their weaknesses.
Notice how marriage, specifically to men, is taken for granted and expected. Twice now in the space of about 20 seconds, Ms. Shapiro has described a conservative woman's role in terms of what she can and should do for a man, and this won't be the last time she does that. Meanwhile, throughout this entire video, there is not a single mention of what a conservative man can and should do for his wife. Now, if asked, Ms. Shapiro would probably say that of course a man should likewise support his wife and help her be the best she can be. Or at least, I hope she would, but her focus is clearly and disproportionately on what the wife does for the husband, which I can't help but find suspicious and a bit troubling. Plus, what of the happily dedicated career woman who lacks the time and/or inclination to ever get married? What about lesbian or bisexual women supporting their wives? To be fair, I don't know Ms. Shapiro's stance on gay marriage, and she may have no problem with women who choose to be perpetually single. Still, a major point on her list of qualities that make conservative women the backbone of American society has all the hallmarks of the doting, heterosexual housewife. There are at least some unfortunate implications to that. You've heard of slut-shaming? Well, this could easily be used to legitimize spinster shaming.
We stand hand in hand with men, not against them.
Okay, at best, she's painting with a very broad brush here. Feminism, for better or for worse, ranges in definition from mere gender egalitarianism to rabid misandry. I'll join Ms. Shapiro in not only criticizing but outright condemning the misandrists, but by not even paying lip service to the distinction, she is at least facilitating if not endorsing the equivocation through which the legitimate critiques of egalitarians can be reflexively dismissed.
And we shouldn't have to remain silent about our views, like I did, for years.
There's that implied persecution complex again.
You've been told that the best way to be a woman is to act more like a man.
Yeah, let's put a pin in that. This is another recurring theme I've found in this video.
You've been told that you don't care about women because you care about a child in her womb.
Ah, abortion. She seems to be implying that caring about unborn children is unique to pro-lifers. It most certainly is not. Look, I won't pretend to speak for all pro-choicers, but I feel pretty safe saying that most of us do care about unborn children. We're just not tunnel-visioned in our concern for them. Personhood is, at the very least, Still a bit too tricky to define for us to conclude with any real confidence that it begins at conception. Meanwhile, a strict ban on abortion has considerable societal side effects of its own that should be weighed carefully against the consequences of keeping it legal. When such careful weighing is done, my firm belief is that the scales tip in favor of choice, at least until a certain point in fetal development. Plus, I think pro-choicers are also arguably just being realistic. If you want fewer abortions, making the procedure itself illegal and relying on people to exercise draconian responsibility in their sexual activity just doesn't seem to be as effective as some might think. What we need is sex education in which abstinence and safe sex are both presented as valid and respectable options, better access to birth control, and a stronger social safety net so that more mothers can support their kids once they're born. And yet, all of the things I just mentioned form the utter antithesis of the typical conservative platform. Now, I don't know how much of that exact platform Ms. Shapiro herself actually holds, but again, she is issuing a kind of rallying cry to a group of people that do commonly hold just such a platform, so it seems reasonable to assume that her views are at least close enough that my remarks are applicable regardless.
Let's take back the culture so women can be women. Let's talk about reclaiming your femininity.
Remember that pin we put in the remark about being told that the best way to be a woman is to act more like a man? Yep, it's time to pull that out and take a closer look, because we've just circled back to the same key issue. Remarks like that one and the one she just made about women being women are symptoms of what I consider to be a misrepresentation, or at best, an overgeneralization. For me at least, liberal views on gender performance are not about turning women into men or vice versa. They're about recognizing that human diversity compels us to not delineate gender roles as rigidly as they traditionally have been. If you're a woman, and you're genuinely happy being June Cleaver, that's fine. I would never judge you for that. But if you want to be Lara Croft instead, that's perfectly fine too. You shouldn't be considered any less of a woman. Sure, on average, each major gender seems to have its own particular proclivities and preferences, but the general trends that prevail within a group as a whole should never put pressure on any one individual. When it comes to gender performance, there are a greater variety of valid ways to skin a proverbial cat than Ms. Shapiro seems to think.
Let's talk about finding balance in career and home life.
I agree. No argument there.
Let's talk about how to dress fashionably and conservatively.
Yeah, I made a whole video on why conservative standards of female modesty are problematic. Check it out if you're interested.
Let's talk about life from a conservative perspective, and let's not be afraid to do it.
And the video ends pretty much how it began, with the implication that conservative views are being disproportionately and unfairly ridiculed, criticized, and/or suppressed. If Ms. Shapiro thinks conservatives are being persecuted in this country, I really have to wonder what her standards are. Personally, I'm very suspicious that this is just another example of the religious right being so used to their traditional privilege that it's skewed their very sense of what a level playing field even feels like. They've been dishing out ridicule, criticism, suppression, and even outright demonization to other groups of people for decades if not centuries with relative impunity. But when just a fraction of it starts coming back their way, the long overdue shift towards a more equitable marketplace of ideas apparently feels to them like a wave of bullying. Ms. Shapiro, regressive extremists aside, your views are not being silenced. They're being criticized and forced to compete on a more level playing field. To quote the scathing atheist, it's not that you're suddenly being treated less equally. It's that everyone else is finally being treated more equally. You mentioned that belief in God is apparently considered passé. Please. It's still very difficult if not impossible for atheists to get elected to public office in much of the U.S., especially at the federal level. Many atheists face the credible risk of disowning and ostracism when they come out as such to their friends and/or families. Atheists are among the least trusted people in the country, and we are routinely represented as having no moral foundations. If this isn't ridicule or oppression, then whatever you think conservative women are experiencing definitely isn't either. Anyway, Thanks for watching, and if you liked this video, please consider subscribing and or leaving a comment.